What's up, everyone? Welcome back to Claw Convos. Today, Sheila and I are joined by Aditi Pednekar, who is in the Startup Chile Build program, working on a new venture of hers called Zipgigz. She's starting in the IT and HR industry, helping businesses with their recruitment and change management. So we're super excited to talk with her about her role in this new company and her experience being an entrepreneur.
Hey guys, this is Sheila and Maya Dunn, and you're listening to Claw Convos. Let's get it done, bitches.
Welcome to Claw Convos. To get started, could you just tell us a bit about your story with Zipgigz, your current company?
Sure. So I come with around 16 years of experience, as you guys know. After working for 15 years, I came to a point where there were so many loopholes with usual working, so many processes in HR, and every time I would hit a roadblock and I would be like, why aren't people doing something in this space? And every time I would come up with, some other thing, and I'm like, finally, if, unless until someone really does it, why can't I step out of my full-time job and do this? But it was a huge risk because, being settled 15 years, 16 years into this position, heading the HR department with an IT company, it was all hunky-dory. I really didn't want to move, all set. But then, yes, I always had this rebel streak. I've always been thinking out of the box. So why not me? And that just clicked. I said, let's go ahead. I happened to discuss this with one of my current co-founders, of course. Then he was an acquaintance, and he was running an AI-based startup, drone-based AI startup. So I ran the whole idea, and we did some bit of research and some groundwork, of course, in terms of validation, and that clicked because a lot of people wanted this, a lot of them, and of course, my network and my fraternity is like at my fingertips in terms of the connections and all of that. So yes, the research was like perfect. This would be great to have. And as of now in India, or probably at least I don't think there are even globally there are a couple of players, but again the reach is very limited. So we said why not? India happens to be the IT hub when it comes to talent pool. So this is going to be great if in case we can mobilize the resources well, it's going to be perfect. So that's where the whole idea about, what do we really want this product to be, of course, and that's how Zipgigz came into the picture. We did some bit of research for 6 months about what do we want, what kind of loopholes are there, what exactly we need to bridge in when it comes to vendors and clients, what is the best outcome that they would like to, bring it on the table. That's where I bring to you Zipgigz. So I'm not too sure if you guys are aware about Zipgigz, but it's practically a B2B platform wherein any organization, be it startup or enterprise client, when you could source any technology resource for a project-based tenure on the portal, right from sourcing, like discovery, interviews. Probably it's like a seamless end-to-end product up to a billing cycle. Typically, this is exactly the discovery is a concern. After you have a discovery, which probably happens to be after few weeks, end of it happens to be what if there's the resource vanishes or there's a replacement and so on. So there, this portal, it gives to you complete replacement, the entire disciplinary, any issue monitoring. So we kind of plugged in a lot of loopholes and kind of one platform. So this is exactly what we wanted to bring them.
And when you say loopholes, what do you mean by that?
So loopholes, this platform as of now is, of course, I'm targeting Indian vendors as of now, Indian, I would say, talent suppliers for time being. But yes, as we try and test this product, we would be certainly taking it. Global is like the dream, but of course we would be going by countries, going by the statutory norms, and of course there's some bit of the norms that we need to study. So the loophole, by the means of loophole, a lot of vendors operate as per their whims and fancies. So some of them would, follow certain statutory norms. The small players would just go by, completely overlooking it. No, so for example, no healthcare being provided to the contract employees, no audits being taken place. So all of those, employment benefits being just consumed at their end rather than actually filing it. When it comes to clients, making sure the payments are timely released to the vendors, because if in case it's a small vendor, there's a lot of arm twisting that goes. So it completely depends. This whole sector is completely unorganized. Yeah. So that's exactly where we wanted to be a player, so that we could bring in a plethora of vendors online. At the same time, clients could just have a good comparison in terms of what is the kind of talent pool available, and we just wanted to shorten up the turnaround time to onboard any candidate.
Where did the interest for like IT and HR come from originally? Or how'd you get into the 15 years?
I started as an HR. So I started my career with recruitment. So recruitment is very close to my heart. So though I graduated well in my career, right from recruitment to a journalist to HR business partner role, and end of it was of course heading HR. But as I said, recruitment is very close to my heart. So every moment there would be, a shortfall in any specific process, I would plug it in. I also got into HR automation and so on and so forth. So yes, I did automate a lot of internal processes. So that's where the IT came into me in terms of, the kind of PRS, the kind of testing, making product, or, even applications. So I was pretty well versed with it. With the whole cycle about developing or automating HR processes. So why not move out of a full-time job and create product all by itself? And since I was already as a part of HR in the IT fraternity, best time, I think I could leverage the network connections, even when I say connections for resources, perfect.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's definitely like that story of noticing a problem in an industry and then actually doing the thing to solve it. Was there like an aha moment that you had, or did it kind of just all accumulate and you said, finally, I'm going to do it?
Not really. A lot of questions were raised. Do you really want to do this at this point of time, especially? So the aha moment came in a little late, of course, when we got this product kind of tested, and it was like, okay, great, we should just go ahead with this now. The aha moment was when we had our first sign up with an international client, and that was like I kind of treated it as my win, because I had clients. I knew I could get clients from India. Okay, that was very easy. I could source from vendors and all of that, but international placement, or I would say the project, so it was just not one, a couple of them, and it was like, this is it, I can do this.
So at what point did you quit your job? Like, what was did you have income coming in with the business and then quit, or did you because I'm always curious about that, because both Maya and I started our businesses in college, so we have that like safety net, and to quit without that quote unquote safety net would be very scary to a lot of people.
Right. So Zipgigz is a COVID baby. Let me tell you that. I quit my job in December 2000. I quit my job in December 2019, and I also have another venture which I'm yet to go live with. Again in HR tech space. Like I said, I know the loopholes. I would love to plug it in. So I kind of stalled it because again it was pertaining to recruitment related. But at the same time, since people were not recruiting, heavily in 2020, early 2020, everything was like wait and watch. That's when I realized like people are not going to really hire full timers easily, even if we're done with COVID in another couple of years. People are going to be really, taking time to onboard full-time resources. So what is it next that they're going to look for? They need resources. At the same time, since I knew the hiring space, I knew how fast the technology is changing. So specific skill is pretty hot. Everyone was recruiting cloud, say around 3-4 years back. It was the hot skill. It would fetch the highest in the market. Let me tell you, more than probably a front-end developer or a full-stack developer. Now, of course, it's something else. So there is a cycle. There is a technology cycle, which every specific skill fetches a real high price. So I knew I was a part of this entire cycle. I knew the IT industry and the way it really emerges every 6 months. There's a new skill and everyone really goes behind it. So knowing the whole cycle, I was pretty sure there's going to be, cyclical. Every organization cannot employ all the resources. So what next? I'm sure. So everyone would, at some point of time, would go ahead and work towards the workforce contingency, right? So-called future workforce contingency. Typically, this happens, which is called as bench in IT organizations. 10% is what you can hold as bench, which is a cost to the company. Okay, you can't hold too many IT resources. With COVID, everyone started laying off bench resources. And that's when I got to know that what if, you need that resource at any point of time, where are you going to rush to? Yeah. No place. So that thought kind of, clicked in. And that's when we started a bit of research. We found the company like mid 2020, started our development, and we are good to go today. So that exactly as I said, Zipgigz is a COVID baby, and I'm proud of it.
You should be. Yeah, that's amazing. I'm very curious about the future, what your thoughts are on the future of sort of like the gig economy and the future of sort of freelancing. I have, when I was actually launching my business, the idea came from wanting to be a travel blogger and work remotely and travel around the world but have no source of income. That was in 2016. And so like the digital nomads and that sort of thing, like now we're seeing like maybe post-COVID, more flexibility in the workplace. And maybe do you have any thoughts on the future of like freelancing, digital nomads, or sort of this gig economy of talent?
Right. So gig economy is kind of here to stay, because now that people have tasted work from home, remote working, it's not going anywhere. It's going to stay. And the best thing about this economy is, or rather remote, is IT organizations are actually cutting costs in terms of so-called IT premises. You give them the best of the infrastructure. You don't really have to invest in them. All you need to invest is actually some kind of a performance monitoring, culture building, making sure the HRs are, keeping them intact, because everything is remote. So gig economy, in fact, the recent surveys, a couple of surveys that I had gone through, spoke of 60% of the workforce is going to stay work from home. 60% is a huge chunk. Huge. And out of which 32% is going to move from a full-time to a contingent workforce. Now, that's again, absolutely. And when we're talking about these percentages, the 2025 numbers that, one of the surveys spoke about is around 149 million opportunities. So imagine a 30% of, 32% of that is a huge chunk that's going to move into a contingent workforce, which is going to be working remote. So if I could mobilize these resources effectively with the optimum cost to the organizations and to the vendors, which is a complete win-win proposition, I think that's going to be a big win.
Yeah, for sure. What's been your favorite part about being a CEO and more entrepreneur than when you were working in the industry?
Well, frankly speaking, I didn't really think that I would be the CEO. I, of course, wanted to make something in terms of a product, that being done, the other two co-founders happen to be, one of them is techie. I know him almost since a decade now. I had worked with him in one of the product companies way back, 10 years back. And of course, he already runs his, another venture with software development. Okay, I'm going to take charge of the tech part. The product is my baby, but someone needs to take charge of the operations. The other co-founder happens to be a product guy, someone who had earlier worked with the drone-based AI analytics startup. So that leaves me with the operations, and considering I knew the HR pretty well, it's absolutely at my fingertips. I know, as I said, apart from the loopholes, I knew what's coming up next. Where it's going to land us. Right? So it's pretty easy for me to understand what the next client is looking at, and I can start. I just step into their shoes and start thinking from their angle. It helps. It helps when it comes to costing, understanding onboarding processes, understanding what kind of a fitment, because some of them really speak to me very closely in terms of what kind of a culture fit they need. So this is a contract resource, a contingent resource, but they're looking at a culture fit, which is very, very important. That's like a different level of conversation altogether, because you don't know if you're going to continue this resource for 12 months or not, but you're looking at a culture fitment at this point of time. So it's a great conversation. It's a different level of conversation altogether. What exactly you are looking from this kind of resource. So that is when I kind of really come into the picture. There's a lot of value add where then I have to work around with my staff in terms of let's plug in what they're looking at. So the reason being, not everyone looks at it from a culture fitment. Trust me, any resource, any organization who talks to me about culture fitment, I'm more than happy to help them out, because that's the way to go. You really need to look at just being beyond resource. You really need to look at what is the kind of value addition this resource is going to bring into your organization. And so that's about it. So I think it's the HR operations, which is very close to my heart. Recruitment got me into this position of being a CEO, and I think I'm loving it so far.
I was curious how you decided on specifically focusing on like the tech talent versus, maybe professional services, or maybe more entry level placements, maybe, or whatever.
I got that.
Yeah.
Okay. So one was, yes, my experience in the industry kind of gave us further deep insights in terms of what's in demand. Or what's the cycle like, what's coming up next. One was that piece of experience. Second was there are already a couple of startups, or I would say, ventures in the blue collar workforce, or probably in the digital, like, you have Upwork, for example, where again, it's a lot into freelancing, but if you go ahead and check, it's a great place where you could, go ahead, hire freelancers in terms of digital, creative, you name it, including tech, but again, they're not full-timers. You can tend to go, but again, they offer you at a given point of time, this resource could be taking up multiple projects. So that's the space wherein we realize that any IT organization needs a resource for 8 hours, so-called dedicated resource. I knew the working in any IT organization, the way it works, because most of the IT organizations tend to build their resources further to the next client. So if you have to build a resource to the next client, you need to have a dedicated resource. So that was one. And so how do you go about, really mobilizing these resources? So when we really did our bit of research, there's nothing in the IT space. And knowing the existing scenario, the existing problem statements, this was the perfect fit. It just kind of, it fits in because, as I said about the technology cycles, every new technology coming in, I knew the kind of, not everyone gets trained on all the technologies. Someone is a Java developer, someone could be specifically Kafka expert, or someone else could be purely a full stack developer like a Mean or a Moan stack. So that resource is not going to really, train on cloud or, like a DevOps profile. So he's going to stick to one role. So when you really need multiple resources on, one could be a DevOps, the other could be an Android, someone else could be working on some other kind of database, and what next? So I knew technology, I had worked with the IT organizations. I knew the way the bench works. I knew the contingency, the way they work. And I also knew the revenue cycles, how they impact any IT organization if you don't have a resource in place. So if I could really hit the nail, that's going to be great. This information kind of helped me to zero down so-called the tech space or the IT, just to focus on IT. We don't really cater to any other domain at all.
How have you liked the accelerator kind of lifestyle versus, not being in the accelerator?
Okay. So yes, Startup Chile is the second accelerator, let me tell you that. The first one was Zone Startups India, which is part of Bombay Stock Exchange. And so Zipgigz got selected as one of the, it was a complete women entrepreneur program dedicated to complete all women. And it was pretty early for us because that's when we were kind of, still in the development phase in terms of pretty early stage of Zipgigz. But that was perfect because that's when it really helped me groom and scale up. So by the time I could start with my operations, I was right there in terms of understanding what are the different challenges that could be, coming up, what kind of product cycle that I need to look forward to, growth hacks, a lot of them, So my first accelerator was Zone Startups India. It really helped me big time. And thanks to them, we also kind of got an early stage funding from Government of India. So that was one big win for us, because considering our product was not really ready and it was early stage because of our offline traction, we kind of won that. So that was a wow moment for us. So, and then Startup Chile happens to be the second program where we kind of decided to go ahead, apply for it. It clicked. We're pretty happy about it. And again, I think one of the primary reasons or the section that we applied was women-led startup. So this one also, came through well. So it kind of gives me that's good.
So awesome. Yeah. There's so many different.
The first. Yeah, you feel good because yes, it's a woman-led startup, and why not? If it gets selected or appreciated for that, it's like I tend to score a brownie point there. So happy about it. Chile is working pretty well. Of course, we did have initial days we had hiccups because I'm based out of India. Everyone knows about the COVID numbers, the way they're flaring up. So, but apart from that, since we couldn't travel to Chile, yes, now that all the sessions are online, it kind of helps us to just attend those sessions remote. Startup Chile team is great. I think in terms of guiding, helping, mentoring, so far it's great, and we're looking forward to the final pitch day, which happens to be. I think the initial round is on 24th, which is happening soon. So let's.
Awesome. Is there anything that you would tell yourself back in December of 2019 or January of 2020, like words of wisdom, advice, anything you could go back and tell yourself?
I think the timing was just perfect. For a simple reason, I moved out. COVID hit everyone, and it's just I don't think I would really go back anywhere. The timing was just apt because everything just fell into place. I could really understand what's going to be the next showstopper, or the blocks that IT organizations could face 2-3 years down the line. And so there are organizations who kind of started off some or the other thing way early, 6-8 years down the line. But there's something called as, the market has to be ready for your product. And the timing was perfect, because if I would have launched this product like 3 years back, I would have taken time to scale up. Yeah. And with COVID, half my job was done in terms of, pushing them or informing them that, look, remote jobs are possible, and you could actually, take up or probably plan your resourcing across the globe so that, you have contingencies built in. So half my job, or rather, I would say, thanks to COVID, the timing was perfect, bang on, and I just made use of the time. That's all.
Right. Yeah, that's great. So we talked a lot about Zipgigz, and you mentioned you're having 15 years of experience in the industry, and now switching over to be more entrepreneurial. I wanted to switch gears a little bit because you mentioned some of the other hobbies that you do in your free time and things that you do, and I'm fascinated that this idea of marathoning and how it kind of parallels with even business and running your own company. It's definitely a marathon and not a sprint.
So marathons for now are like a little kept aside because you really need dedicated time to practice. So marathons for time being are not happening. Again, a lot of marathons are happening like in terms of the base keeping. Nothing is location based. You're not really running with thousands of people anymore. Marathons are happening with app based running right these days. So first and foremost, as I said, India numbers are really going bonkers. We are avoiding any of these things right now. So yeah, so that kind of helps me just to stay focused on my startup right now. But when it comes to marathon, at least what I really do is I do make sure I have some kind of a fitness routine because I can't sit at home. In terms of I really need some health routine to release the energy somewhere. So I do go for walks. I have my time out for I do meditations as well. So there has to be some routine. So either yoga or this. The walk is important. I mean, I think that's the bare minimum I need, if not a workout session. So marathons for now are kept aside. Sometime maybe. And once my operations team gets into a cyclical mode of operations and the platform is like kind of stable, that will be coming up soon. I do have some milestones there. Hopefully I should be there soon.
Awesome. And I was curious, what is a shooting champion, a national level shooting champion, you said?
That's some way 10 years back. So I got into something called as National Cadet Corps, and just some happy realization in one of the camps that I can shoot well. And another couple of times I shot, and so within the inter college, I won a gold, and I'm like, wow, this is something that I should do. And so that's how I realized that I can shoot.
Oh my goodness. Wow. How did you first ever get into that? They're like,
so National Cadet Corps kind of gives you visibility to opportunities to do multiple things during their camps. One of them is shooting. So just during practice sessions, they observed that I could shoot like the closest in the circle. And that was the first time I shot. And they were amazed. How could you? So I said, I didn't do anything. There's no professional training there. So, and one of my senior happened to be a national level champion then. She just won nationals that year. And then she said, you should pursue. If this is your first and the second time shots, you have good chances to, once you have good training, probably you would do better. And that's when I started practicing. So a couple of years of training and I lost a bronze medal because the scores were same. There was a tie. Otherwise, I would have been there. Like I would have had 2 medals. But again, I did not pursue it post that because I started working. No complaints. No, but then I think that was a conscious decision that I took. And but shooting is very close. It's a beautiful game. It's beautiful. And I didn't shoot on air. I shot on a proper pointed rifle, which is a bullet. So shooting is very close to my heart.
I just have one last question. We don't want to keep you too late, but is there any advice you would have for our audience, either in high school or in college, or just getting into their career? Advice you would have for them about really looking at it as a journey, not just the destination? You mentioned that in your email, or any just advice.
Yeah. So I usually, as a person, I believe you really need to focus on your journey rather than the destination. Unless you are building on your experiences, there's no point looking at where is it that you're really, aiming for. So I know, everyone talks about reach for the stars. Yeah, the journey is more important. Reach for the stars, but enjoy every day, every moment that you are. Every experience counts, and that's exactly so people who are coming out of college, graduating, or probably venturing into anything new. I would say don't step back. Just go for it. As long as you maintain your focus where you want to go, but enjoy your journey. Because unless you are adding value to your experiences, keep learning, keep building. If you're not building in terms of as a personality, as a person that you have, your experiences, there's no fun. It's no fun. There's no value addition. And so make mistakes. Great. No worries on that part. But then again, correct them and then again step up again. That's more important. That's exactly what I would say. Count on your journey rather than the final destination.
Yeah, for sure. That's awesome advice. Yeah, we often hear people say if they have any regrets. Usually, it's not really a regret, but it's just a word of wisdom of just enjoy. There's a lot of pressure to succeed and succeed quickly, but to enjoy every day and all the little moments, kind of embracing the game or the journey more than the time before.
Yeah.
So that's awesome. We love to hear that, and definitely think it's relevant to anyone, no matter what path they're on. This has been really awesome to learn more. How can people find out about Zipgigz or maybe learn more about your story?
Well, our platform is live. You can hit www.zipgigz, this is spelled as zipgigz.com, and you shall see for yourself in terms of, if you're an IT or anyone you're hiring for techies, happy to help. Just create a login, and I'm sure I'm going to get, it's going to come to my mailbox in terms of understanding what tech requirements you're going to have. I shall stay connected with you further.
Awesome. Yeah, I'll have to check it out myself. I definitely have a few different needs myself. Yeah, we both have tech teams, so actually could be super helpful. But awesome. Thanks again. Thank you so much. It was really awesome to meet you.
Hey, the experience has been absolutely amazing with you guys. So glad to connect with both of you, Maya and Sheila.